Is the Sony a7S III worth buying in 2023? After all, it was released 3 years ago and a lot of good cameras have come on the market since then. Welcome to another gear review video. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you've seen the capabilities of the a7S III, and you're wondering if it's the right camera for you. Well, I'm hoping to give you an honest review to determine if it is that camera. And I think this review will be most helpful if I compare it to other cameras along the way. Let's start with the camera body. The a7S III is super light. It can easily fit into any camera bag, and it easily slides on a gimbal even with a large lens. If you move into cinema cameras like the FX6, it becomes slightly more burdensome to travel with. Or say the C70 by Canon, it proves slightly more difficult to balance it on a gimbal. I've also found that in settings where I need to stand out less, having the a7S III in its low profile allows me to slide under the radar. This also goes for the FX3, FX30, and a7R5. They're all low enough profile to not draw too much attention. I also love the rotating flip out screen. It's super nice for any vlog style videos. It's also nice if you have to lean in any direction to get a shot. You just flip it and it faces you. You also get custom buttons so you can easily flip between frame rates. I like having one custom button set to 24 frames a second and another for my slow-mo shots at 120 frames per second. It's super easy to switch between the two. So what about the specs? I want to say up front that this is a video-first camera. What I mean is that compared to other cameras like the a7R5, it has a lot fewer megapixels. The a7S III only shoots 12 megapixels, which is more than enough for me as someone who does photography secondary. But if that's a deal breaker for you and you're a hybrid shooter liking to take photos, you might want to consider investing in the a7R5, which has 61 megapixels. It's insane. The a7S III shoots 4K at 120 frames a second, 10-bit 422 codec, full frame, which is absolutely amazing. You're getting cinema line capabilities in a compact body. The new firmware update now has S-Cinetone, which is great if you don't want to play around a lot with color grading in post. But you can also shoot an S-Log3, which is a flat profile, so you have a lot of play with color grading in post. The low light is incredible with dual native ISO of 640 and then 12,800 for your super dark settings. I've been in multiple occasions with my ISO set that high with very minimal noise. The last thing I'll mention for now is the autofocus. I will preface with this is just my opinion from my experience. I think Sony's new continuous autofocus is unrivaled. I've played around with people's Canons, Panasonics, Nikons. Nothing really matches the autofocus of the Sonys. Personally, I've never really missed a shot with my a7S III. I can't even imagine what like the FX30 and the a7R5 are capable of. But I'll stop there. Comment below if you think there's something else that competes with it. Speaking of competition, let's do a little comparison. I'll show you why the a7S III, which is what I'm shooting on right now, stands its ground against the new cameras on the market. The a7R5, like I said, has way more megapixels. So if you're a hybrid shooter, this is a great photo and video camera. You can shoot up to 8K video, which is definitely the way of the future. However, you trade out quality for frames per second. In 4K, you can only shoot at 60 FPS. So you're gonna lose the 120, which may not be a deal breaker for you, but as someone who likes to film cinematic travel sequences and I slow a lot of my wedding footage down, I really like having 120 frames per second, so the a7S III wins out for me. I do think the new a7S series, though, is going to bump back up to 120 frames per second. Just speculating. The a7R5 does have the new autofocus system, which is absolutely incredible from the example videos I've seen online, but all of these features come with a price. The a7R5 comes in at $3,898. Although it's cheaper than, say, the FX6, this is still a more expensive mirrorless camera. Something a little cheaper that you may want to look into is the FX3, coming in at $3,508, and it's technically Sony's Cine line. In fact, it's Netflix approved. It has everything that the a7S III has, plus a little more. Still 4K at 120 frames per second, 10-bit 422, 12 megapixel camera, but it has Sony EI, so it will match up with the FX6, FX9, and the Venice cameras. It also comes with a top handle with XLR. For those two features, you're going to pay almost $400 more than the a7S III. So if those features are worth it, grab the FX3. Or you could pocket that cash for some new lenses and go with the cheaper FX30. The only camera that made me question if the a7S III is still worth it. Again, almost the same guts as the a7S III, 4K 120 frames, 10-bit 422, but with a cinema-like body, so it is more video friendly. It has a built-in fan to prevent overheating. The only difference is that it is cropped, not full frame. Again, this doesn't have to be a deal breaker. If you're aware of the crop, who knows, you may even come to like it. You can punch in a little more on shots. But for anything more vlog style, you're gonna wanna buy wider lenses or lenses for your crop sensor. But here is the biggest positive with this camera. $1,798. It is way cheaper than any other camera I reviewed in this video. The FX30 gets me really excited for what Sony's going to release in the future. If they're able to pack all of their latest guts into this small of a body, I can't wait to see what's coming perhaps this summer. But let me know what you think in the comments. I know I mostly hit on Sony's in this video. If you're a Canon user, Panasonic, Nikon, let me know if I'm missing an all-around better camera than the a7S III. Again, this is just one guy's opinion. My opinion doesn't matter that much. See you in the next one.